Hi everybody, welcome back. This is Unit 5, Lesson 2, and we're going to start by naming a compound. So I'm going to give you a formula, and I'd like you to either use your notes that you wrote down yesterday or your flow chart in order to name that compound. Okay, so here it is. In fact, I may give you two. Here are two compounds, and I'll pause the video, and I'd like you to take a minute and try to come up with a name, and then we'll compare and see how you did. I can't wait to see if you have the right answer. So the first thing you should ask yourself when you're asked to name something is, does the compound have only two elements? Because if it does, then that means it's a binary compound, and we want to follow our binary compound rules. Once we know it's a binary compound, we want to ask ourselves, hey, does this binary compound have a metal? And both of these do have a metal in them, right? The metal will always be first if it has a metal in them. So you want to identify what kind of compound you have, because although we only know one set of rules so far, we're going to know more sets of rules. So the metal is copper, it's to the left of the stairs. Oxygen's the nonmetal. The metal is sodium, it's to the left of the stairs. The nonmetal is phosphorus. So indeed, both of these do have a metal in them. Whenever you have a metal in you, remember you're going to name your metal and then look it up on the periodic table, because you have to see how many charges it has in its box. So for both of these, you should name your metal. Okay? And then we'll go look it up in the periodic table. We'll name our metal and then go look it up in the periodic table. Let's take one of these at a time. So if we name our metal, if we go to the box for copper and look it up here, you can see copper has multiple positive oxidation states. There is more than one charge in copper's box. And when there is more than one charge in the box for your metal only, you must indicate that by putting parentheses after the name of the metal. So you name your metal, you look it up. If it has more than one charge, you put parentheses after its name. Then you name the nonmetal, drop the ending, and add IDE. This is copper something oxide, okay? To figure out what the something is, that's the difficult part for students usually, to figure out which charge copper has. Now, if we go back to that copper box for just a minute, if we go back to the box for copper, you should recognize that you're either going to put a Roman numeral 1 or a Roman numeral 2 inside the parentheses, because those are the possible charges that copper can have when it's in compounds. To figure out which charge copper will have, we look up oxygen's charge. Now, oxygen is -2. Okay, now, here is where, again, the mistakes are made. Oxygen's charge is -2, okay? Copper can either be +1 or +2. So what most students think is like, oh, if this is -2, this has to be +2, and that makes a neutral compound. That is not the right answer, because not only do you have to look at the charges, but you have to look at how many atoms of each you have. You have 2 coppers in this formula and 1 oxygen. The oxygen is -2. So in order for the total of these charges to equal 0, each copper will need to be +1. Because then your charges will total 0, okay? Whereas if each copper was +2, your charges overall would equal +2. So in order to make a neutral compound with our given formula, 2 coppers and 1 oxygen, each copper will need to be +1. So basically what you're doing, and I drew it out, and you can always draw it out, but what you can also do is put an X up here for copper, because we don't know its charge. And then do it algebraically. Do the subscript times the charge, so bottom times top, 2x. Oxygen doesn't have a subscript, so it's 1. Bottom times top minus 2 has to equal 0. Solve for your x now. Add 2 to both sides. 2x equals 2. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 1. So this number goes inside Roman numerals up here in the parentheses. This is copper Roman numeral 1 oxide. Okay? If we go for the next one, that's the final answer. That's the only thing it is. That's its only name. In this one, remember we had a metal. And whenever you have a metal, you have to look it up in your tables. Whoops. So here is our Na. I know it's a little bit hard to see. Let me see if I can move this over a little bit for you. Not real good with that. There we go. Na only has 1 charge in its box, which means that you do not need the Roman numerals after its name. You just forget about the Roman numerals. Oh. Forget about the Roman numerals. Name your metal, name your non-metal, drop the ending, and add ID. So this one would be called sodium phosphide. Okay? Let's do another couple where we have our more than 1 charge in the box, and we'll do them on that second page in your notes. Okay, so I'm at naming practice number 2. It's the second page after the flow chart in your notes. And let's take a look at question number 3. Question number 3, we have CUI2, okay? It's an I. It's a capital I, not a lowercase l, and if you're ever in doubt, let me know. So first I want to identify its binary, and what do I have? Cu is a metal, this is a non-metal. When I have a metal, I name the metal. I go to the box on the reference tables and see how many charges copper has. So if we go here and look up copper, whoops, where'd it go? There it is. Copper has more than 1 charge in its box. So what we will need to do then is put parentheses after its name. That's what when the metal has more than 1 charge, that's what you do. You name your non-metal, iodine, drop the ending, and add IDE. So this is copper something iodide. To figure out the something, we'll put an X for copper because we don't know if it's going to be the +1 or +2. We go and look up the non-metal charge. And you always have to pick the negative for the non-metal. The metal will always be positive, a cation, and the non-metal will always be negative, an anion. So we'll go here and we'll look up iodine's charge. So we just have to scooch over a little bit more, and here's our iodine. Now if you look in iodine's box, it has -1, +1, +5, +7. We pick the negative. Always pick the negative for your non-metal. So we will pick our negative for iodine. It gets a -1 charge. Okay, now copper doesn't have a subscript, so I'll just plug in a 1 there. Now we do bottom times top, 1x, bottom times top, -2 has to equal 0. All compounds are neutral. So what charge do you need in order to get a neutral compound, right? In order to make a neutral compound, your x has to be +2. So then you put that in Roman numerals inside the parentheses. The name of this compound will be copper 2 iodide. All right? Let's look at number 6. Look at number 6 real quick. Number 6 is RaCl2. That's what number 6 is. So again, we have a compound. This is a metal. This is a non-metal. We go to our box whenever we have a metal and we look it up. So we go to our box here for our metal, and we look up radium. Here's radium. Radium only has 1 possible charge in its box. So what we do then, is we do not need parentheses. We name our metal, radium. You name your non-metal, drop the ending, and add IDE. radium chloride is the name of that compound. I'd like you to try 10 and 11 on your own. So for Monday, please, if you could try number 10, which is, for those of you that don't happen to have your notes with you, CuF2, and number 11, V2O5, and I'm actually going to have you do one more. Number 13, Al2O3. Try to name these 3 compounds for Monday, and we'll see how you did when you come in. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday. Bye-bye.